share my screen with you. And let me find the right slide. And this is what we're going to be talking about today. Declare a play and counting your winners or counting your losers. So we'll look at different ways of evaluating your hand. And sometimes as a declarer, you need to count your winners. Sometimes you may find it better to count your losers, or should you try to count your winners and your losers? So let's have a look at a few examples of this. And here's an example of a no trump contract. And when you're playing in no trump, it's normal to start by counting your winners. In fact, you should start by counting your top tricks, your definite top tricks that you can take right away without losing the lead, and then look at other opportunities for more tricks. So I've got the first pole of the evening here, which is this hand here where North South are in 3 no trump, and they lead the 4 of spades. Down comes dummy, and I'd like you to start off by counting your top tricks here. How many top definite tricks can you take right away? And in a moment I'll launch a poll with that relatively simple question on it, and the question is, how many top tricks do you have here? I'm going to share the results with you. And most of you went for 6, 75%, but some of you said 7, and 2 people said 8. So let's switch back to the show. Well, top tricks are tricks you can take right away without losing the lead. And I think we have exactly 6 here. We have 2 spades and 4 hearts. We don't count anything in diamonds because we don't have the ace. That doesn't count as a top trick, and we don't have any clubs. So yes, I agree with the majority of you. You have 6 top tricks, and I do recommend that you go through this in 2 stages. Don't just try to estimate your tricks, but actually, first of all, work out how many top tricks you have, and then look at the other suits and see how many more we can establish or set up in some way. And if we look at the other suits, I think the best suit is clearly diamonds, where we're hoping to make a number of extra tricks here. And you can see you're missing the ace, so you can't take all 5 diamonds here, but thinking you might take perhaps 4 diamonds. And I'd like you to think about what you think your chances are of being able to make 4 diamond tricks here. So you're going to lose 1, but what do you think the percentage chances are that you'll be able to make 4 diamonds? And I'm going to launch a second poll in a moment. And the question is, what are your chances of making 4 diamond tricks here? It will obviously depend on how the diamonds are distributed, but I'm going to give you some choices as to what you think your chances of making 4 diamonds are. So here's the second poll. What do you think your chances of making 4 diamonds are? 36, 50, 62, or 71%? Well, we've had a very divided response. Let's have a look at your responses. And almost equally, you've gone between 50%, 62%, or 71%. And one person said 36%. Well, I did run this suit combination through the suit play program, and the answer is that your chance of making 4 diamonds is actually 71%. It will depend on the distribution, but what you will do is lead a low diamond towards your honors, and it's sort of equally good, it turns out, to either lead a low one towards the queen or jack, or to lead a low one towards a king. It gives you pretty much the same chance. And with normal distribution, you will just lose one trick and you'll be able to make 4 tricks there. Of course, you may be very unlucky and you could actually make as few as 3 or even 2 tricks, but most of the time you should manage 4 tricks there. So that means we have 6 top tricks and we hope to make 4 diamonds, and we might make a club. We're not going to play the clubs, early on, but maybe they'll lead a club, or maybe we'll get a club at the end with the king. Anyway, so this is the normal way that you would make the plan in a no trump contract. Count your top tricks and then look at opportunities for more. So you gain extra tricks in no trump by things like establishing long suits, as we just did there, finessing, or leading towards your honors. And in no trump, you really focus on your winners, your winners rather than your losers. There's really no point trying to count your losers. If I go back to this hand here, if I were to say to you, how many club losers have you got? Well, you really can't tell how many tricks you're going to lose in clubs, and it's not really particularly helpful to think about it either. So it's just simpler to think about your top tricks and other tricks you can establish. Do interrupt me if you have any questions about this. But Robert, I can't hear you very well.
I've got a question. On that previous deal, should you win the first trick?
Okay. I think I would win the first trick because I only expect to lose a lead once in diamonds, and I've got 2 stoppers. The other thing is if I play low from dummy and suppose East play something like the Jack or the Queen, if I let them win the trick, then I could be vulnerable in clubs. If East switches to a club, they might trap my king. So I think I'm going to win the first trick. Yes.
Thank you.
So in a suit contract, on the other hand, it's very often the case that we focus on our losers. And we're going to look at doing that on this hand here. Here we've opened 1 spade, partner bid 2 clubs, we rebid 2 spades, they invited game, and we ended up in 4 spades. And I'd like you to think about how many losers you might have, and in particular, think about how many losers you might have if you decided to draw all the opponent's trumps at the beginning. So to count your losers, you look at it from the point of view of the hand with the long trump suit normally, but taking into account any high cards in the other hand. So the poll that's coming out is going to say, if you were to draw all the opponent's trumps at the first opportunity, how many potential losers do you have? So I'm going to launch that 3rd poll now. And most of you here have gone for 4, 44%, but there are answers for 5, 3, or 2. So let's see what we think. Well, if we draw the opponent's trumps, it's going to take presumably 3 rounds to draw the trumps, and we won't have any trumps left in dummy. So the losers we have in this situation is we have 1 spade loser and 3 diamond losers. We have a total of 4 potential losers, 3 diamonds and 1 spade. We're not going to lose any clubs because we've got the ace, king, queen. We're not going to lose any hearts, and we've just got the 1 spade to lose. So this is how you would typically work out how many potential losers you have in a suit contract, and it comes to 4 here. Now, those of you who might be thinking, but we're not going to lose all those 4 losers because we're going to be able to rough one of the diamonds in dummy. And that is indeed what we're going to do on this hand. So the opponents start off in diamonds. Whatever they switch to at some point, we're going to gain the lead. And then before we've drawn trumps, we're going to play a 3rd round of diamonds, and we're going to rough it in dummy. And that way we'll avoid one of those losers, and we'll just lose then presumably 2 diamonds and the ace of spades. And we should just make our 10 tricks here. I mean, there are other ways you can think about this hand, and sometimes on a hand like this, people think about, well, should we rough some hearts in our hand? But when you're roughing in the hand with the long trump suit, generally speaking, it doesn't give you any extra tricks, because we're planning to make all but one of those spades, and roughing in the long hand doesn't really help you. If you find counting your losers challenging, you can also, so we would sort of avoid one of those losers by roughing one. You can also try to count your winners, even though you're playing in a suit contract. And if you were to do that, your assessment would be something like this, that you have 2 top tricks in hearts, and you have 3 or 4 top tricks in clubs. You don't know whether it will be 3 or 4 tricks. It will depend on how they divide. So here you start out off with something like 5 top tricks, and then you go through the same process you went through in a no trump contract. And obviously you can make a lot more tricks in the trump suit, and you should be able to make an extra 4 tricks there. So if you do that assessment, and it's another way of counting, you will come to the conclusion that you've got 4 spades, 2 hearts, and 3 clubs. So that's 9 tricks. And then you'll have to look around for another way to make any extra tricks. And you will presumably come to the same conclusion, that you can make 1 more trick by, if you can rough a diamond. And if you wish to count this way, then you can do it. But I think counting, focusing on your losers in a suit contract helps you to focus on, how to avoid those losers. Whereas if you count your winners, although it comes to the same conclusion, but you have to work out, how am I going to make an extra trick here if I only have 9 tricks here? So do interrupt me if you have any questions on that. So that's a possibility in a suit contract, to count your winners. So you would say you can make 4 spades, but you can rough an extra 1. Okay. I want to have a look a bit more at some planning hands in suit contracts. And let's have a look at this one here, where you've opened 1 no trump. Your partner bid 2 clubs, which was Stayman, and you bid 2 hearts, and you ended up in 4 hearts. And the opponents leave the ace of clubs. And this hand is interesting because we have 4 trumps in each hand. So we're actually going to make a plan with this hand, looking at it 3 different ways. We're going to look at it from our own hand point of view and work out how many losers we have if we look at it from our hand's point of view. Or here we're also going to do it from dummy's point of view. Dummy also has got 4 trump here, 4 hearts. So we're going to do it from that side's point of view as well. And we're also going to try counting our winners as well. But let's look at it counting our losers from the point of view of the south hand. And I also just wanted to mention, I do get some people watching this video who don't play ACOL, but play other systems. So if you were playing, for example, strong no trump with 5 card majors, you would bid this a little differently. You would have to open the south hand with 1 club, not 1 no trump, and your partner would go 1 diamond, then 1 heart, and you'd end up in the same contract of 4 hearts. But either way, let's work out how many losers we have in the south hand, but taking into account all the strength in dummy. Well, I can see we've got 2 spade losers, no heart losers, no diamond losers, and the other place we have losers is in clubs. So we actually have 3 potential club losers and 2 potential spade losers. So we start off with 5 losers here, and then we need to think about how we're going to avoid some of them. And I see two things here. One thing is we have that diamond suit. So that diamond suit should provide 5 tricks, and that will allow us to discard a couple of losers. And we've also got that shortage of clubs in dummy. And if I could ruff 2 clubs, I could hold my club losers to just 1. So I've got the 2 spade losers, and I could think about discarding those on the diamonds. And I can think about the 3 club losers, and I could think about ruffing 2 of those on the long diamond suit. Or I could discard the clubs on the diamond suit, but then I won't be able to discard them on the spade suit. So if you make a plan that way, I hope you can see that to make the most tricks here, you should think about roughing 2 clubs in dummy and discarding 2 spades on the diamond suit. And so played that way, that might be the conclusion you come to. And if all goes well, maybe we'll be able to make 12 tricks, because we'll avoid 2 of the spade losers and 2 of the club losers. As I said, on this hand, you've got equal trump length. And very often when that's the case, you may find it easier to make a plan from the perspective of one hand rather than the other. So just as an exercise, we're going to look at this from the point of view of the north hand here and think about how many losers we have here. So here I can see we've again got 2 spade losers, no heart losers, no diamond losers, we expect, and just 1 club loser. So if you would declare if you look at this from the north hand point of view, you can see you've got 2 spade losers and 1 club loser. And then you would sort of have to think about, how am I going to make any extra tricks here? And it doesn't seem so obvious looked at from the north point of view that you can do something similar. You can do ruff 2 clubs, because you know that it's sort of not so obvious. So what I recommend, if you have, especially if you have equal trumps, is to consider it from both hands' points of view. And I think if you look at it from North's point of view, it's not so obvious that you want to be ruffing clubs here. But if you look at it from South's point of view, you can see that you hope to make 12 tricks by ruffing 2 clubs. So especially when you have equal length in trumps, if you try to consider it from both hands' points of view, from your hand or from dummy's point of view. Or the third way to plan the hand is trying to count your winners. So here, if I do that, I can see I'm hoping to make 5 diamonds, 4 hearts, and a spade. So that comes to 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I've got 10 tricks I expect to make here. And then again, if I want to try and make extra tricks, I can think about where I can do that. And maybe I would think of the same thing, that I can make 2 more tricks if I can ruff 2 clubs. So that's one sort of fairly straightforward hand that you can look at in different ways. And my suggestion to you is to try and look at these hands in different ways and try and work out which is more useful for you. And I think looking at it from South point of view on this particular one is easier. It's easiest to see that by ruffing 2 clubs you can make 12 tricks on that one. Do interrupt me if you have any questions on that one. So let's actually switch screens and actually look at that hand and see if we can put our analysis of it into practice. So what we decided was that the best option here was to try to ruff 2 clubs and to play the diamonds and discard spades on that. So let's see if we can put that into practice. Suppose your opponents lead the ace of clubs, they take that trick, and suppose they shift to a spade, and we're going to take that one too. And remember, our plan here is to ruff 2 clubs. So what we'll do is come over to our hand. Now you can afford to do that with the trump here, because we only need to ruff 2 clubs. So we we're not going to draw all the trumps, but we can draw one round, which will get us to our hand. And now we can play a club and ruff that one in dummy. And assuming that succeeds, we now want to come back to our hand so we can ruff the other club. Perhaps you could do that with the king of diamonds and then play another club. And you need to think about what you want to ruff with. You could try ruffing low or ruffing high. Either works, I think, in this particular case. So if you ruff high, it can't be over ruffed. And then all we want to do is draw trumps. So we play a second round of hearts. Once everyone's followed, we now know there's just one more trump out, so we'll draw it, and we can now cash all our diamonds. And when, of course, when we play our diamonds, we'll discard those two spade losers. So that would be how you would plan to make.
Sorry, Tony, can I just jump in? Can
Yeah.
you hear me?
Yeah.
On that particular hand, once you ruff the second club and draw one trump, why are we even ruffing clubs? Why? I mean, the diamonds are going to get rid of the two spades, and you don't have a club in hand left.
I don't think that's quite right. Can you say that again?
You're going to ruff the second club.
Yeah, I think we need to ruff two clubs.
But now, if you look at from the north hand, there's
Yeah.
no more club losers, is there? All
No.
the diamonds are going to win. And
No.
you can drop your two spades on your two winning diamonds.
Okay, so
We're ruffing clubs for no reason, as far as I can see.
right. So okay, so let's see. So this point here. So are you okay ruffing one club or not?
There's no need to ruff any clubs.
All right. So let's try it, shall we?
You go back to the if you go back to the lead.
Yeah. So we've just played the heart. So what
Well, you
we're
could
going
have
to do is what? Draw the remaining trumps.
no, yeah, draw the remaining trumps.
Yeah. So let's do that. Let's draw the remaining trumps.
Oh, well, yeah, okay. Sorry, my mistake.
Yeah, you'll be left with two. Well, if you draw all the trumps, yeah, you'll.
My mistake. My
Yeah.
mistake.
No, it's worth thinking about, and it's not always obvious by any means. Yeah. So
I thought he continued with a club, but he didn't. He switched to a spade. I didn't
yeah,
see
he
that.
switched to a spade. Right. That's right. So yeah, So if we do this, I think at this point. We can only make one over trick because we'll end up we've got these two spade losers and two club losers, and we can discard some of them on the diamonds, but we can't discard them all.
My error.
Yeah, that's all right. That's good. No,
I mute myself again.
no. It's not easy. These are not easy. I think these particular hands. Let's have a look at another hand, and this time we're going to look at this. Again, played in different ways. So here, North opened a heart, you bid a spade, North jumped to 3 spades, and South bid 4 spades. And we're going to have a look at how you might play this hand. Again, we've got equal trump length in both hands. And I'm going to give you a couple of options as to how you might play this. So one option will be to draw all the opponent's trumps first. Okay. Another option might be to try to ruff clubs in dummy. Another option might be try to ruff diamonds in your own hand. Or the last option might be to try to cross ruff clubs and diamonds. Okay. So if you decide to ruff clubs in dummy, what you're doing is you're making South what's called the master hand, and you're going to use North for ruffing of clubs. Or if you do it the other way round and ruff diamonds in your own hand, you're making North the master hand, and you're using your trumps to ruff diamonds and the trumps in dummy to draw the opponent's trumps. So I'm going to give you I'm going to launch the final poll of the evening, which is how are you going to play this hand? And again, the options I'll before I put up the poll, because it does obscure the hands, are you going to draw all the opponent's trumps first? Are you planning to ruff clubs in dummy? Are you going to ruff diamonds in your own hand? Or are you going to try to cross ruff clubs and diamonds? So let me give you a minute to think about it, and then I will launch the last poll. Okay, let's have a look at the answers, and we'll see what you said. So the majority went for cross-ruffing clubs and diamonds, with 38% saying ruffing diamonds in your hand, or 8% said ruffing clubs and dummy, and 8% said draw all the opponent's trumps first. So what we're actually going to do is actually play this hand 3 different ways and see how it works out. So let's go through the possibilities. If we look at this hand from my own hand's point of view, but taking into account all the strength in dummy, I can see I'm hoping I won't lose any spades. I've got the ace of hearts to lose. I'm not going to lose any diamonds because I've got the ace opposite a singleton. And the only other losers I've got are these 3 clubs. And I might be thinking about ruffing some of those in dummy. Okay, so that's one way you might be planning to play this. If I switch the focus of this and look at the north hand, let's see how many losers we have that way. Well, again, I'm hoping not to lose any spades. I'm going to lose 1 heart. In clubs, I'm not going to lose any clubs because I've got 2 clubs opposite the ace king. And in diamonds, I have 2 potential losers. And if I could ruff both of those, then I should only just lose 1 trick, only just lose 1 trick to the ace of hearts. Or you might think about drawing all the opponent's trumps. If you do that, play the 8, it will take 3 rounds at least with the ace, king, queen. And if you do that, then you'll only have 1 trump left in each hand to do ruffing with. So I don't think you'll make so many tricks. So on this hand, my the way I think I want to play this is to ruff 2 diamonds in the south hand. And ruffing diamonds is much more likely to be successful than trying to ruff clubs, because you have very few diamonds between you and dummy. You've only got 4, so very likely to be able to successfully ruff those without there being any overruffs. Whereas if you try to ruff clubs, where you've got 7 clubs here, it's quite likely that the opponents may overruff unless you're able to ruff high. And we'll also look at what happens if you try to cross ruff. So I'm going to play this the way I think it's best to play it, which is by ruffing 2 diamonds. And let's see how that goes. So we'll win the first trick with the ace of clubs. And we won't touch trumps because we want to ruff 2 diamonds. So we'll play the ace and we'll ruff a diamond. That was successful. And now what we want to do is get back to the north hand so that we can ruff that last diamond. And you could get back with the trump, or you might try so if you get back with the ace of spades there, you can now lead your last diamond and we'll ruff it there with a 10. Okay, and now we've done all the ruffing we wanted to do if we adopt that line. All we now need to do is draw the remaining trump. So we'll play the king. There's still a trump out. So what we want to do is get back to the north hand and draw it. So we might try that with a heart, perhaps. Maybe we'll get back with the king. If they don't take their ace, we'll win that trick. And then we just draw that last trump. And that's it. We've achieved our goal. We can now take our remaining hearts. We've still got to lose to the ace here, but whatever happens after that, we'll gain the lead and we'll be able to take the last 2 hearts and the last trump. And played that way, we will make 12 tricks there, which is what we hope to do by ruffing 2 diamonds. Let's see what happens if we try to play this another way And let's see what happens if, for example, instead you decide to try to draw trumps first. Okay, so this is the same hand, but we're going to start off by drawing trumps. It's going to take 3 rounds here. Okay, so we've been able to do that, but now we've only got 1 trump left in each hand, so we won't be able to do much roughing here. We can try and set up our hearts, and if they play a diamond back, we can win that one, and we can rough once here with our last trump, but we can't rough any more diamonds. So all we can do now is take our hearts and our club, and at the end we'll lose a diamond if they've kept that. So we'll make 1 fewer tricks. We've basically lost another diamond because we were not able to rough both of those diamonds. Or the third way I'm going to play this is to think about the one that most of you went for, which is cross-roughing clubs and diamonds. And although there are some hands where it's a good idea to cross-rough, this isn't really one of them. It's much better just to focus on roughing the 2 diamonds than trying to rough the club. So just see what happens if you try to rough clubs. So if we play the ace and king, and then we try to start roughing clubs, there's quite a high chance that that will get over roughed. So here, if we don't rough high, if we try a low rough, it will get over roughed, so we lose that trick. Let's suppose they come back with a diamond, which we win, and we're going to try cross-roughing the diamonds now, which succeeds. If we try and play a club back, we're not going to rough low here. We might try roughing high so that it can't get over roughed. So that succeeds. And then maybe playing another diamond, which we rough with a spade there. So we've been able to do that. But if you look at the hands now, you can actually see that we've lost control of trumps in the sense that West now has more trumps than we do. So we're going to lose another trump trick here. So we might play hearts there, try and force out the ace. But whatever happens now, although we can win that one, we're going to lose 1 trick here, 1 more trump, because we can't draw the last trump. Okay, and they'll make another trick there, and we'll only make 10 tricks there. So really, by trying to rough the clubs, it was a much more dangerous approach because you're much more likely to get over roughed. And if you try to rough diamonds and clubs, you're shortening your trump holding. And on a hand like this, unless you're able to, you end up with high trumps at the end, you risk running out of trumps yourself. So on a hand like this, it works out much better if you consider it from north hand point of view and try to rough diamonds rather than roughing clubs, rather than cross-roughing, and rather than just drawing the opponent's trumps. How do you know which one to consider? I mean, on this hand, I think once I look at it from North's point of view, I can see that roughing diamonds is a really attractive option here. Very safe, and should lead to 12 tricks as it did. So that was all I wanted to say on this subject. Basically, in no trump, I suggest you count your winners and then look at ways of setting up extra tricks. Counting your losers does not really help. In a suit contract, however, generally I suggest you count your losers from the point of view of the hand with a longer trump suit. Sometimes if you have especially equal trump length, you may find it easier or more useful to consider the hand from dummy's viewpoint. And that was the case on that last hand. And sometimes if you're planning to cross-rough, there are hands where it's right to cross-rough, you may find it easier to count your winners and add extra for the extra tricks that can be made by roughing. So those are basically the options, and that's my recommendations of how you try to plan a hand. Anyone have any questions on that? So so that was it for the talk today. We'll have the game starting at 7:30.